Right now, as you're listening to these words, you're traveling through space at over 67,000 miles per hour. Earth is hurtling around the sun is racing through the Milky Way, and our entire galaxy is flying through the cosmos at speeds that would make the fastest jet fighter seem like it's standing still. Yet despite this cosmic ballet we're all part of, the nearest star beyond our sun might as well be on the other side of forever. Proxima Centauri sits just over 4 light-years away. That's roughly 25 trillion miles of empty space. If you could somehow drive there at highway speeds without stopping, the journey would take you 28 million years. Even travelling at the speed of our fastest spacecraft, you'd need over 70,000 years to make the trip. That's longer than all of recorded human history, multiplied by 7. Tonight, we're diving into one of humanity's most audacious dreams, and perhaps our species' greatest engineering challenge. How do we build a starship capable of crossing the vast ocean of space between stars? Not in some distant science fiction future, but with technologies we could actually develop and deploy within the next century. The challenge we're about to explore isn't just technical, it's existential. Every major civilization in human history has been defined by its ability to explore and expand into new territories. The Polynesians mastered the Pacific, Europeans crossed the Atlantic, Americans pushed westward to the Pacific coast. Now we stand at the edge of the ultimate frontier, staring into an abyss so vast that it challenges everything we thought we knew about travel, survival, and human endurance. But here's what should fill you with wonder rather than despair. For the first time in human history, we're not just dreaming about interstellar travel, we're engineering it. Teams of scientists, engineers, and visionaries around the world are solving real problems, building actual hardware, and developing concrete plans for humanity's first steps toward the stars. The fundamental problem we face isn't just distance, it's energy. Moving any significant mass to the speeds necessary for interstellar travel requires energy on scales that dwarf anything humanity has ever attempted. Chemical rockets, the workhorses that carried us to the moon and built the International Space Station, are laughably inadequate for this challenge. They're like trying to cross an ocean with a paper airplane. Consider the mathematics of our predicament. The fastest human-made object ever created is the Parker Solar Probe, which will eventually reach speeds of over 430,000 miles per hour as it dives toward the sun. That sounds incredibly fast until you realize it would still take nearly 6,700 years to reach Proxima Centauri. We need to go roughly 1,000 times faster to make interstellar travel practical within human lifespans. This isn't just about building a bigger rocket or carrying more fuel. The fundamental physics of conventional propulsion creates what engineers call the tyranny of the rocket equation. Every kilogram of payload requires kilograms of fuel. Every kilogram of fuel requires additional fuel to accelerate it. The mass requirements grow exponentially, quickly reaching absurd proportions. To accelerate even a small spacecraft to 10% of light speed using chemical rockets would require more fuel than exists in the entire solar system. Ion drives, which power some of our most advanced deep space missions, offer better efficiency, but produce thrust so gentle that acceleration takes years or decades. NASA's ion thrusters, remarkable achievements in their own right, would still require 18,000 years to reach Alpha Centauri. We might as well be planning to walk there. The breakthrough we need demands a fundamental shift in how we think about propulsion. We need energy sources that don't require carrying massive amounts of reaction mass. We need thrust systems that can operate continuously for decades without mechanical failure. Most importantly, we need technologies that can accelerate spacecraft to significant fractions of light speed while keeping human crews alive and functional. The answer lies in harnessing the most powerful energy source in the universe. Nuclear fusion, the same process that powers the sun and every other star, offers energy densities thousands of times greater than any chemical reaction. A single gram of fusion fuel contains as much energy as burning several tons of coal. More importantly for our purposes, Fusion reactions can produce exhaust velocities between 150 and 350 kilometers per second, compared to the 4 kilometers per second typical of chemical rockets. This isn't just theoretical speculation. Multiple organizations worldwide are developing fusion propulsion systems that could revolutionize not just interstellar travel, but all deep space exploration. California-based Helicity Space recently secured $5 million in seed funding to accelerate their fusion propulsion research. UK startup Pulsar Fusion has begun construction on a large nuclear fusion chamber in England that, when fired, would temporarily become the hottest place in the solar system. The implications are staggering. A fusion-powered spacecraft could reach Mars in 90 days instead of the current 8-month journey. Jupiter could be reached in a matter of months rather than years. But most remarkably, fusion propulsion could enable spacecraft to achieve 10% of light speed, reducing interstellar journey times from tens of thousands of years to mere decades. Several distinct approaches to fusion propulsion are being pursued simultaneously, each with unique advantages and challenges. Inertial confinement fusion uses powerful lasers to compress tiny fuel pellets to incredible densities, triggering fusion reactions that can be precisely controlled and timed. The proposed Sun Voyager mission would use this approach, detonating 5.76 milligram pellets filled with deuterium and helium-3 at a rate of 10 times per second. Magnetic confinement fusion, the approach being developed for terrestrial power generation, could also be adapted for spacecraft propulsion. The magnetic fusion plasma drive concept promises significant advantages in fuel efficiency and thrust capabilities compared to existing technologies. These systems would contain fusion reactions using powerful magnetic fields, channeling the resulting plasma through magnetic nozzles to generate thrust. But fusion propulsion faces formidable challenges that must be overcome before it becomes practical. Achieving the extreme temperatures and pressures necessary for fusion reactions requires enormous amounts of energy and incredibly sophisticated control systems. The reactor must operate reliably for years or decades without maintenance opportunities. Most critically, the entire system must be light enough to accelerate efficiently, while robust enough to survive the harsh environment of interstellar space. The engineering challenges become even more complex when we consider the requirements for human crews. Unlike robotic probes, crewed interstellar missions must provide life support, radiation shielding, artificial gravity, and psychological well-being for potentially hundreds of people across multiple generations. Project Daedalus, conceived in the 1970s by the British Interplanetary Society, remains one of the most detailed studies of an interstellar probe ever undertaken. This ambitious design called for a 2-stage fusion rocket that would accelerate continuously for 4 years, reaching 12% of light speed before coasting for 46 years to Barnard's star. The spacecraft would weigh 54,000 tons at launch, with the vast majority of that mass consisting of fusion fuel. Even this robotic probe pushed the boundaries of what seemed possible. The Daedalus design required 50,000 tons of helium-3, an isotope so rare on Earth that the mission planners proposed mining it from Jupiter's atmosphere. The fusion reactions would occur 250 times per second, each one equivalent to detonating 1 ton of TNT inside the spacecraft's reaction chamber. The engineering precision required to contain and direct such violent forces while maintaining spacecraft integrity over decades of operation challenged every aspect of known technology. Yet Daedalus proved that interstellar missions were theoretically possible with foreseeable technological developments. The project established performance benchmarks and identified critical technologies that would need advancement. More importantly, it demonstrated that serious engineering analysis could replace pure speculation in discussions of interstellar travel. Modern fusion propulsion concepts have evolved far beyond the Daedalus design, incorporating advances in materials science, computational modeling, and nuclear physics. Advanced magnetic confinement systems promise better fuel efficiency and easier fuel handling than the helium-3 requirements of Daedalus. Inertial confinement approaches offer more precise control over fusion reactions and potentially simpler spacecraft architectures. The development timeline for practical fusion propulsion appears increasingly realistic. Multiple private companies and government agencies are investing billions in fusion energy research, driven primarily by terrestrial power generation needs. However, the technologies being developed for Earth-based fusion power plants directly support the requirements for spacecraft propulsion systems. Recent breakthroughs in high-temperature superconductors, advanced plasma control systems, and laser technology are accelerating progress toward practical fusion reactions. Several organizations claim they will demonstrate net energy gain from fusion reactions within the next decade. Once fusion energy becomes practical for power generation, adapting the technology for spacecraft propulsion becomes an engineering challenge rather than a fundamental physics problem. But fusion propulsion alone cannot solve all the challenges of interstellar travel. The journey to even the nearest stars will take decades, requiring spacecraft to operate autonomously far from any possibility of repair or resupply. Every system must be designed for extreme reliability, with redundant backups for critical components. The spacecraft must also protect its occupants from the hostile environment of interstellar space. Cosmic radiation levels far exceed anything experienced in Earth orbit or even on the lunar surface. High-energy particles from galactic cosmic rays and solar events can damage electronics, degrade materials, and pose serious health risks to human crews. Traditional radiation shielding using dense materials like lead would be prohibitively heavy for interstellar missions. Advanced concepts include magnetic field generators that deflect charged particles, similar to how Earth's magnetosphere protects our planet. Active shielding systems could surround the spacecraft with powerful magnetic fields, creating an artificial magnetosphere that diverts most cosmic radiation. The psychological and social challenges of interstellar travel may prove even more difficult than the technical problems. Human crews would spend decades in a confined environment, completely isolated from Earth and surrounded by the vast emptiness of space. The nearest help would be light years away, making real-time communication impossible. Generation ships represent one approach to these human factors challenges, accepting journey times measured in centuries while providing complete habitable environments for thousands of people. Recent design competitions have produced detailed concepts for massive rotating cylinders containing everything from agricultural areas to schools, libraries, and parks. The Chrysalis design, winner of a recent international competition, envisions a spacecraft 36 miles long, weighing 2.4 billion tons. 5 concentric cylindrical shells would provide specialized environments, from food production in the outer shell to living spaces, community areas, and industrial facilities in the inner shells. The entire structure would rotate to provide Earth-normal gravity through centrifugal force. Such massive generation ships would require construction capabilities far beyond anything currently possible, likely necessitating extensive space-based manufacturing infrastructure. The social and political challenges of organizing multi-generational missions add additional complexity to an already daunting engineering project. But perhaps the most intriguing alternative to generation ships lies in radical advances in human longevity and suspended animation. If medical technology can significantly extend human lifespans or enable reliable hibernation systems, smaller crews could survive journey times of several decades without requiring massive generation ships. Research into life extension technologies is accelerating rapidly, driven by advances in genetic engineering, regenerative medicine, and our understanding of aging processes. Some researchers believe human lifespans could be extended to several centuries within the next few decades. Combined with suspended animation or hibernation technologies, such advances could make interstellar travel practical with relatively small crews and compact spacecraft. The convergence of these technologies, fusion propulsion, advanced life support systems, radiation shielding, and life extension creates unprecedented possibilities for interstellar exploration. For the first time in human history, we can envision concrete pathways to the stars that don't require revolutionary physics breakthroughs or impossible engineering feats. The most promising near-term approach to interstellar travel doesn't require massive generation ships or centuries-long journeys. Instead, it involves something that sounds almost impossible: accelerating spacecraft to 20% of light speed using nothing but focused beams of light. Breakthrough Starship, launched in 2015 with initial funding of $100 million, represents humanity's most serious attempt at practical interstellar exploration. The concept is elegantly simple in principle, yet staggering in its technical requirements. Ground-based laser arrays would focus enormous amounts of energy onto ultra-lightweight spacecraft equipped with reflective sails, accelerating them to unprecedented speeds in a matter of minutes. Picture this: 1,000 tiny spacecraft, each no larger than a computer chip and weighing just a few grams, deployed from a mothership in high Earth orbit. On the ground below, a square-kilometre array of lasers begins to fire, their combined output reaching 100 gigawatts of power. That's roughly equivalent to the electrical output of 100 nuclear power plants, all focused into coherent beams of light. Each spacecraft, equipped with a gossamer-thin sail measuring several meters across but only hundreds of atoms thick, catches this concentrated starlight and begins to accelerate. Within 10 minutes, these tiny explorers would reach 20% of light speed, fast enough to cross the distance to Proxima Centauri in just over 20 years. The physics behind light propulsion exploits one of the fundamental properties of electromagnetic radiation. Photons carry momentum, and when they reflect off a surface, they transfer that momentum to whatever they hit. The effect is incredibly subtle under normal circumstances, but when you concentrate the output of millions of lasers onto an ultra-lightweight target, the accumulated momentum transfer becomes substantial enough to accelerate spacecraft to relativistic speeds. The engineering challenges are breathtaking in their scope and precision. The laser array alone would require approximately 100 million individual lasers, each one precisely coordinated to focus on targets smaller than postage stamps, traveling at incredible velocities. The timing precision required exceeds anything ever attempted in human engineering. A coordination error of even nanoseconds would scatter the laser energy uselessly across space instead of accelerating the spacecraft. The light sails themselves represent marvels of materials engineering that push the boundaries of what's physically possible. These ultra-thin membranes must reflect nearly 100% of incoming light while absorbing almost none of it, preventing them from vaporizing under the intense laser bombardment. They must maintain structural integrity under accelerations of 10,000 times Earth's gravity, forces that would instantly destroy any conventional material. Recent breakthroughs in metamaterials and photonic crystals are making such light sails feasible. Researchers have developed designs incorporating billions of nanoscale features arranged in precise patterns to maximize reflectivity while minimizing mass. These photonic crystal structures can be fabricated using advanced lithography techniques, creating sails with area densities of less than 1 gram per square meter. The spacecraft themselves must be marvels of miniaturization, packing cameras, computers, communication systems, and power sources into packages weighing just grams. Every component must survive not only the extreme acceleration phase, but also decades of travel through the harsh environment of interstellar space. Cosmic radiation, interstellar dust impacts, and the extreme cold of deep space all pose threats to these tiny explorers. Perhaps most remarkably, these gram-scale spacecraft must carry communication systems powerful enough to transmit data back to Earth across interstellar distances. The signal strength required is almost incomprehensible. By the time radio waves from Alpha Centauri reach Earth, they would be so weak that detecting them requires some of the most sensitive equipment ever built. The spacecraft's transmitter must focus its limited power into an incredibly narrow beam aimed precisely at Earth's predicted position decades in the future. The target precision required for breakthrough Starship missions staggers the imagination. Launching from Earth toward a star system over 4 light-years away demands navigational accuracy that exceeds anything previously attempted. The spacecraft must be aimed so precisely that after traveling for over 20 years at relativistic speeds, they arrive close enough to potentially habitable planets to capture meaningful scientific data during brief flyby encounters lasting just hours. Even tiny course corrections become impossible once the spacecraft leave the solar system. There's no fuel for maneuvering, no possibility of real-time guidance from Earth. Every aspect of the mission trajectory must be calculated and executed perfectly during the initial acceleration phase. The margin for error approaches zero across distances that dwarf human comprehension. Despite these enormous challenges, Breakthrough Starship has achieved remarkable progress in just a few years. Prototype light sails have been successfully tested in Earth orbit, demonstrating basic light propulsion principles. Laboratory experiments have validated metamaterial designs that could survive the intense laser bombardment required for acceleration. Computer simulations have refined mission profiles and identified optimal launch windows. However, the project has also encountered significant setbacks that highlight the immense technical barriers remaining. Recent reports indicate that Breakthrough Starship has been placed on indefinite hold, with only a fraction of the initial funding spent on actual hardware development. The challenges of coordinating millions of lasers, fabricating light sails at scale, and miniaturizing spacecraft components have proven more difficult than initially anticipated. The power requirements alone present formidable obstacles. Generating 100 gigawatts of laser power requires energy equivalent to a significant fraction of global electricity production. The laser array would need to operate for only minutes at a time, but the infrastructure required to store and rapidly discharge such enormous amounts of energy pushes the limits of current technology. Atmospheric distortion poses another critical challenge for ground-based laser arrays. Earth's atmosphere constantly shifts, and turbulence, bending and scattering laser beams in unpredictable ways. Adaptive optics systems can compensate for some atmospheric effects, but maintaining the precision required for spacecraft acceleration across the entire 100 gigawatt array may require breakthrough advances in atmospheric compensation technology. The economic barriers are equally daunting. Conservative estimates place the cost of a complete Breakthrough Starship mission at $5 to $10 billion, comparable to the most expensive space missions ever undertaken. Unlike traditional space missions that provide immediate scientific returns, Breakthrough Starship requires a 20-year investment before any data returns from the target system. Yet the potential scientific returns justify these extraordinary investments. The first images of potentially habitable exoplanets, direct measurements of interstellar space, and proof that humanity can reach other star systems would revolutionize our understanding of the cosmos and our place within it. Success would demonstrate that interstellar exploration is not just theoretically possible, but practically achievable with foreseeable technology. The lessons learned from Breakthrough Starship will inform all future interstellar missions, whether robotic or crewed. The precision navigation techniques, advanced materials, and high-power laser systems being developed for this project will find applications in countless other space missions. Even if the original timeline proves overly optimistic, the technologies being pioneered today will eventually enable humanity's first steps toward the stars. But Breakthrough Starshot represents only one approach to interstellar exploration. While laser-propelled nanocrafts could provide our first glimpses of other star systems, they cannot carry human crews or establish permanent presence beyond the solar system. For those goals, we need fundamentally different approaches that accept longer journey times in exchange for greater payload capacity and mission flexibility. This brings us back to fusion propulsion and the possibility of crewed interstellar missions. Unlike the gram-scale payloads of Breakthrough Starshot, human missions require massive spacecraft carrying thousands of tons of life support systems, radiation shielding, and crew accommodations. The energy requirements for accelerating such massive payloads to interstellar speeds exceed even the most optimistic projections for fusion propulsion technology. The solution may lie in combining multiple propulsion technologies in staged missions that gradually build up the infrastructure needed for human interstellar travel. Initial robotic missions using fusion propulsion could establish supply depots and communication relays at intermediate points between star systems. These waypoints would provide refueling opportunities and reduce the energy requirements for subsequent missions. Advanced manufacturing capabilities deployed to these intermediate stations could produce fuel and spacecraft components from local resources, dramatically reducing the mass that must be transported from Earth. Automated mining and refining systems could extract deuterium from gas giant atmospheres or harvest rare isotopes from asteroid belts, creating the fusion fuel needed for continued interstellar expansion. This stepwise approach to interstellar exploration mirrors how human civilization has historically expanded into new territories. Early explorers established footholds and trade routes, followed by permanent settlements that become launching points for further expansion. The same pattern could guide humanity's expansion to the stars, with each successful mission enabling more ambitious follow-up expeditions. The timeline for such an expansion scenario spans multiple decades, but remains within the realm of foreseeable technological development. The first fusion-powered robotic missions could launch within 30 to 50 years, assuming continued progress in fusion energy research. Human missions might follow 20 to 30 years later, once robotic missions have established the necessary infrastructure and validated life support technologies. The crew selection and training requirements for interstellar missions present unprecedented challenges in human spaceflight. Unlike existing space missions that last months or at most a few years, interstellar crews would commit to decades-long journeys with no possibility of return to Earth. The psychological profiles required for such missions differ fundamentally from those of current astronauts. Traditional astronaut selection emphasizes technical competence, physical fitness, and ability to work under pressure for relatively short periods. Interstellar crews would need exceptional psychological resilience, social compatibility, and commitment to long-term goals that extend far beyond individual lifespans. The crew would essentially become a small society, requiring skills in leadership, conflict resolution, education, and cultural preservation. Training programs for interstellar crews would need to simulate not just the technical aspects of spacecraft operations, but the social dynamics of long-term isolation. Analog missions in remote terrestrial environments provide some insights, but nothing can fully replicate the psychological impact of knowing that Earth lies years behind and years ahead, with no possibility of rescue or early return. The genetic and reproductive considerations for interstellar crews add additional complexity to mission planning. If journey times extend beyond individual lifespans, the crew must be capable of reproducing and raising children in the spacecraft environment. This requires not just life support systems, but educational facilities, recreational spaces, and social structures that can maintain human culture across generations. Recent research in developmental biology suggests that reproduction and child development in zero-gravity or artificial gravity environments may face significant challenges. Bone development, cardiovascular function, and neurological development all depend on gravitational cues that may be absent or altered in spacecraft environments. Ensuring healthy human reproduction during interstellar journeys may require advances in medical technology and environmental design that we're only beginning to understand. The psychological impact of raising children who will never see Earth poses profound philosophical and ethical questions. These second and third generation crew members would be born into an environment completely isolated from humanity's home planet, with their entire universe consisting of the spacecraft interior. Their cultural identity, educational experiences, and life goals would necessarily differ from those of Earth-born humans. Managing the cultural evolution of isolated interstellar crews presents challenges that extend far beyond technical engineering. Human societies naturally evolve and change over time, but interstellar crews would develop in complete isolation from Earth's cultural influences. The languages, customs, and social structures that emerge during decades-long journeys might become unrecognizable to Earth-based observers. Communication delays with Earth compound these cultural challenges. Even at light speed, radio signals to nearby star systems require years for round-trip communication. Crews departing for more distant targets might lose real-time contact with Earth entirely, forced to make critical decisions without input from mission control or Earth-based experts. The governance structures needed for interstellar missions must balance individual freedom with mission requirements in ways that no human society has previously attempted. Traditional military command structures may prove inadequate for missions lasting decades, while democratic decision-making processes could become unwieldy when dealing with technical emergencies that require immediate action. These social and psychological challenges may ultimately prove more difficult to solve than the technical problems of propulsion, life support, and radiation shielding. Human nature itself becomes a critical component of mission design, requiring advances in psychology, sociology, and organizational behavior that parallel the needed advances in engineering and physics. The medical requirements for interstellar missions push healthcare technology into completely uncharted territory. Crews must be prepared to handle everything from routine medical care to complex surgical procedures without any possibility of evacuation to Earth-based hospitals. The spacecraft must essentially carry a complete hospital capable of treating any medical condition that might arise during decades of travel. Pharmaceutical supplies present particular challenges for long-duration missions. Most medications have limited shelf lives, and resupply from Earth is impossible once the mission begins. Advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing capabilities must be integrated into the spacecraft, allowing crews to synthesize needed medications from basic chemical precursors. The possibility of mental health crises during interstellar journeys requires careful consideration in mission planning. The extreme isolation, confinement, and stress of interstellar travel could trigger psychological conditions that threaten mission success and crew safety. Treatment options must be available on board, including both pharmaceutical interventions and psychological therapy capabilities. Genetic engineering technologies may offer solutions to some medical challenges of interstellar travel. Crews could be enhanced with improved radiation resistance, extended lifespans, or better adaptation to artificial gravity environments. However, such genetic modifications raise ethical questions about human identity and the rights of enhanced individuals that society has barely begun to address. The convergence of all these challenges, fusion propulsion, radiation shielding, life support systems, psychological resilience, and medical self-sufficiency creates an engineering problem of unprecedented complexity. Success requires advances across dozens of scientific and technical disciplines, coordinated international cooperation, and financial investments that dwarf any previous human endeavour. Yet the potential rewards justify these extraordinary efforts. Establishing human presence in other star systems would ensure species survival against existential threats on Earth, while opening unlimited opportunities for expansion and discovery. The scientific knowledge gained from studying other planetary systems firsthand would revolutionize our understanding of life, intelligence, and our place in the cosmic order. The technologies developed for interstellar missions would transform life on Earth as well. And if you find yourself drawn to these cosmic puzzles, I'd be grateful if you gave this video a like and perhaps subscribe. Fusion energy, advanced life support systems, and radiation protection technologies all have terrestrial applications that could improve human welfare and environmental sustainability. The international cooperation required for interstellar missions could establish frameworks for addressing other global challenges that require coordinated action across national boundaries. Perhaps most importantly, the pursuit of interstellar travel represents the ultimate expression of human curiosity and ambition. The same drive that led our ancestors to cross oceans and explore continents now calls us to reach for the stars. Whether we answer that call successfully will define our species' legacy for millennia to come. The journey to the stars begins not with the launch of spacecraft, but with the decisions we make today about research priorities, international cooperation, and long-term commitment to goals that extend beyond individual lifetimes. Every advance in fusion energy research, every improvement in materials science, every insight into human psychology and social organization brings us closer to humanity's greatest adventure. The starships of the future are being designed in laboratories around the world right now. The crews that will fly them are being born today. The question is not whether humanity will reach the stars, but when, and whether we'll have the wisdom to explore them responsibly. The universe awaits our answer, written in the choices we make in the critical decades ahead. The path forward becomes clearer when we examine the most ambitious interstellar mission ever seriously planned by human engineers. In 1973, members of the British Interplanetary Society embarked on what would become a 5-year study that changed how we think about reaching the stars. They called it Project Daedalus, and it remains the most detailed blueprint for an interstellar probe ever conceived. Picture a spacecraft the size of a 30-story skyscraper, weighing 54,000 tons at launch. The vast majority of that mass would be fuel, specifically pellets of deuterium and helium-3 that would undergo fusion reactions 250 times every second for 4 continuous years. Each fusion pulse would release energy equivalent to detonating 1 ton of TNT, contained and channeled through a reaction chamber that must withstand forces beyond anything ever engineered. The numbers behind Daedalus reveal both the audacity and the sobering realities of interstellar travel. To reach just 12% of light speed, the spacecraft would consume 50,000 tons of helium-3, an isotope so rare on Earth that the mission planners proposed mining Jupiter's atmosphere using robotic factories. The engineering precision required to survive 30 million fusion explosions while maintaining trajectory accuracy across interstellar distances pushed every known technology to its theoretical limits. Yet Daedalus proved something profound. For the first time in human history, scientists demonstrated that interstellar travel was not just science fiction fantasy, but an engineering challenge that could be solved with foreseeable technological advancement. The project established performance benchmarks that still guide interstellar mission planning today, showing that serious engineering analysis could replace pure speculation in discussions of reaching the stars. The fusion drive technology envisioned for Daedalus has evolved dramatically in the decades since its conception. Modern approaches to fusion propulsion offer several distinct pathways, each with unique advantages and formidable technical challenges that must be overcome before practical implementation becomes possible. Inertial confinement fusion represents perhaps the most promising near-term approach for spacecraft propulsion. This technique uses arrays of powerful lasers or particle beams to compress tiny fuel pellets to incredible densities, triggering fusion reactions that can be precisely controlled and timed. The energy released from each pellet detonation gets channeled through magnetic nozzles to produce thrust, while the timing and frequency of detonations can be adjusted to optimize performance throughout the mission. Recent design studies for inertial confinement fusion spacecraft reveal remarkable capabilities. The proposed Sun Voyager mission concept envisions a probe capable of reaching 1,000 astronomical units from the Sun in just 6 to 10 years, traveling at 720 kilometers per second. This performance would be achieved by detonating 5.76 milligram pellets filled with deuterium and helium, 3 fuel, at a rate of 10 times per second, with each explosion augmented by additional propellant to maximize thrust efficiency. The laser systems required for inertial confinement, fusion propulsion demand unprecedented precision and power levels. Each fuel pellet must be compressed uniformly from all directions within nanoseconds, requiring laser arrays that can deliver 43.5 megajoules of energy to targets smaller than peppercorns. The timing coordination between multiple laser beams must be accurate to within picoseconds, while the entire system operates continuously for years without maintenance opportunities. Magnetic confinement fusion offers an alternative approach that mirrors terrestrial fusion power development more closely. These systems contain fusion reactions using powerful magnetic fields, creating plasma temperatures exceeding 100 million degrees Celsius, while preventing the superheated material from touching any physical surface. The resulting fusion products get channeled through magnetic nozzles to generate thrust, potentially achieving specific impulses thousands of times greater than chemical rockets. The magnetic fusion plasma drive concept, currently under development, promises significant advantages in fuel efficiency and thrust capabilities compared to existing propulsion technologies. Unlike inertial confinement systems that require complex laser arrays, magnetic confinement fusion could potentially operate using more conventional reactor designs adapted from terrestrial power plants. The continuous nature of magnetic confinement reactions also enables steady thrust over extended periods, simplifying spacecraft trajectory planning and control systems. However, magnetic confinement fusion faces its own formidable challenges when adapted for spacecraft applications. The magnetic coils required to contain fusion plasma must be superconducting, operating at temperatures near absolute zero, while surrounded by fusion reactions exceeding stellar core temperatures. The power systems needed to maintain these magnetic fields must operate reliably for decades, and any failure could result in catastrophic loss of plasma confinement. The fuel requirements for fusion propulsion present logistical challenges that dwarf any previous space mission. Deuterium, one of the primary fusion fuels, can be extracted from seawater using existing technology, but the quantities required for interstellar missions are staggering. A single interstellar probe might consume thousands of tons of fusion fuel, requiring industrial-scale fuel production and processing capabilities. Helium-3, the preferred fuel for many fusion propulsion concepts, poses even greater supply challenges. This isotope is virtually non-existent on Earth, deposited only in trace quantities by solar wind particles striking the lunar surface over billions of years. Serious interstellar missions requiring helium-3 fuel would necessitate large-scale lunar mining operations or, as originally proposed for Project Daedalus, robotic mining facilities deployed to Jupiter's atmosphere. The development of space-based fuel production capabilities could revolutionize interstellar mission planning by reducing the mass that must be launched from Earth's surface. Automated mining systems deployed to gas giant atmospheres could harvest deuterium, tritium, and helium-3 directly from planetary environments where these isotopes exist in much higher concentrations than terrestrial sources. Advanced electromagnetic separation techniques could process raw atmospheric material into refined fusion fuels, with robotic refineries operating autonomously for years between supply missions. These space-based fuel production facilities could support multiple interstellar missions while also supplying fusion reactors throughout the solar system, creating an integrated energy infrastructure that makes ambitious exploration missions economically viable. The reactor containment systems for fusion spacecraft must withstand conditions that exceed anything in terrestrial engineering experience. Fusion reactions produce not only the desired thrust-generating particles, but also intense neutron radiation that gradually damages reactor materials through atomic-scale bombardment. Over years of operation, this neutron flux causes metal components to become brittle and radioactive, potentially leading to catastrophic reactor failure. Advanced materials. Science is developing new alloys and composite materials specifically designed for fusion reactor environments. Tungsten-based refractory metals can withstand the extreme temperatures of fusion plasma, while carbon fiber composites offer high strength-to-weight ratios essential for spacecraft applications. Some designs incorporate self-healing materials that can repair radiation damage automatically, extending reactor lifespans beyond what conventional materials could achieve. The thermal management challenges for fusion spacecraft are equally demanding. Fusion reactions generate enormous amounts of waste heat that must be rejected to space through radiator systems. But the radiators themselves become prime targets for meteoroid impacts and cosmic radiation damage. Advanced radiator designs use liquid metal coolants and redundant heat rejection pathways to maintain thermal control even after partial system damage. Radiation shielding for fusion-powered interstellar missions presents a multi-layered challenge that extends far beyond protecting against cosmic background radiation. The fusion reactors themselves produce intense neutron and gamma radiation that could be lethal to crew members within minutes of exposure. Additionally, interstellar space contains radiation environments that differ dramatically from the relatively benign conditions of Earth orbit. Galactic cosmic rays consist of high-energy particles accelerated by supernovae and other violent cosmic events to speeds approaching light velocity. These particles possess enough energy to penetrate conventional shielding materials and create secondary radiation showers when they interact with spacecraft structures. The radiation dose accumulated during decades-long interstellar journeys could exceed safe exposure limits by orders of magnitude. Traditional passive shielding using dense materials like lead becomes prohibitively heavy for interstellar applications. Every kilogram of shielding mass requires additional fuel to accelerate it, creating exponential mass penalties that quickly make missions impossible. Advanced shielding concepts must provide protection while minimizing weight penalties that compromise mission feasibility. Magnetic field generators offer one promising approach to active radiation protection. By creating powerful magnetic fields around the spacecraft, these systems could deflect charged cosmic ray particles before they reach crew compartments. The magnetic field strength required for effective shielding exceeds Earth's magnetic field by factors of hundreds, demanding superconducting coils and enormous power supplies. Recent research into plasma-based shielding systems suggests that spacecraft could generate protective plasma bubbles that absorb and deflect incoming radiation. These plasma shields would surround the spacecraft with clouds of charged particles that interact with cosmic rays, reducing the radiation flux reaching critical systems and crew areas. The power requirements for maintaining plasma shields over interstellar distances remain challenging, but the concept offers potentially superior protection compared to passive shielding approaches. Electrostatic shielding represents another active protection strategy that uses high-voltage electric fields to deflect charged particles. By maintaining the spacecraft hull at extremely high electrical potentials, These systems could repel incoming cosmic rays before they penetrate the vehicle structure. However, the power requirements and electrical isolation challenges for electrostatic shielding systems present significant technical hurdles. The most effective radiation protection strategies likely involve combining multiple shielding approaches in layered defense systems. Passive shielding using advanced lightweight materials could stop lower energy particles, while active magnetic or electrostatic systems handle high energy cosmic rays. Strategic placement of heavy equipment like fuel tanks and reactor shielding could provide additional protection for crew areas without dedicated shielding masts. Long-duration survival in interstellar space requires life support systems that operate with near-perfect reliability for decades without resupply or major maintenance. Unlike Earth orbital missions, where emergency evacuation remains possible, interstellar crews must be completely self-sufficient for the entire mission duration. Every component failure could cascade into life-threatening emergencies with no possibility of external assistance. Closed-loop life support systems must recycle air, water, and waste products, with efficiency levels approaching 100%. Current space station life support systems achieve recycling rates of roughly 90%, meaning that 10% of consumables must be resupplied regularly. For interstellar missions lasting decades, even 1% losses would require massive initial stores or advanced recycling technologies that exceed current capabilities. Atmospheric management for interstellar spacecraft involves maintaining precise control over oxygen, carbon dioxide, humidity, and trace gas concentrations while preventing the accumulation of toxic compounds. Plants and microorganisms could assist with atmospheric processing, but biological systems introduce their own complexities and failure modes. Backup chemical scrubbing systems must be capable of maintaining breathable atmosphere even if biological components fail completely. Water recovery systems for interstellar missions must process not only crew waste, but also humidity condensation, equipment cooling loops, and any water used for food production. Advanced filtration and purification technologies can recover water from virtually any source, but the energy requirements and maintenance needs for these systems must be carefully balanced against available resources. Food production during interstellar missions presents unique challenges that go beyond simply carrying adequate supplies. Stored food loses nutritional value over time, and the psychological benefits of fresh food become crucial for crew morale during long-duration confinement. Hydroponic and aeroponic growing systems could provide fresh vegetables and psychological relief, but they require significant space, energy, and maintenance resources. The genetic diversity of food crops becomes critical for interstellar missions, as crop diseases or genetic bottlenecks could threaten food security with no possibility of resupply from Earth. Seed banks and genetic preservation technologies must maintain viable crop genetics for decades while protecting against radiation damage and storage degradation. Waste management for interstellar missions cannot rely on simply jettisoning unwanted materials into space. Every atom aboard the spacecraft represents finite resources that may be needed for repairs, recycling, or emergency situations. Advanced recycling systems must be capable of breaking down waste materials into useful raw materials for manufacturing and life support systems. Three-dimensional printing and molecular recycling technologies could enable crews to manufacture replacement parts and tools from waste materials, reducing the need to carry extensive spare parts inventories. These manufacturing capabilities become essential for maintaining complex spacecraft systems over mission durations that exceed the design lifespans of individual components. The medical requirements for interstellar crews encompass everything from routine healthcare to complex surgical procedures, all performed without possibility of evacuation to Earth-based medical facilities. The spacecraft must essentially function as a complete hospital, equipped for any medical emergency that might arise during decades of travel. Pharmaceutical manufacturing capabilities become essential for long-duration missions, as most medications have shelf lives measured in years rather than decades. Advanced pharmaceutical synthesis systems must be capable of producing needed medications from basic chemical precursors, requiring sophisticated chemistry equipment and extensive chemical feedstock supplies. Surgical capabilities for interstellar missions must include everything from routine procedures to complex operations that might be needed for trauma care or emergency medical situations. Robotic surgical systems could provide precision and reliability beyond human capabilities, while also reducing the training burden on crew members who must serve as medical personnel in addition to their other duties. Mental health support during interstellar missions becomes crucial for maintaining crew functionality and mission success. The extreme isolation, confinement, and distance from Earth could trigger psychological conditions that threaten both individual crew members and overall mission safety. Treatment protocols must be available for depression, anxiety, psychosis, and other mental health conditions that might emerge during the mission. The social dynamics of small isolated groups present challenges that extend beyond individual psychology into group behavior and leadership structures. Research from Antarctic stations, submarine deployments, and space station missions provides insights into how isolated groups function, but interstellar missions would exceed the duration and isolation levels of any previous human experience. Communication delays with Earth compound the psychological challenges of interstellar travel. Even messages to nearby star systems require years for round-trip communication, making real-time conversation with Earth impossible. Crews must be prepared to make critical decisions without input from Earth-based experts, while also maintaining psychological connections to human civilization, despite the communication barriers. Cultural preservation becomes important for maintaining crew identity and psychological well-being during extended isolation. Digital libraries, entertainment systems, and cultural artifacts help maintain connections to Earth civilization, while also providing psychological anchors that help crew members cope with the extreme isolation of interstellar space. The realistic timelines for achieving interstellar travel capabilities depend on continued progress across multiple technological fronts, from fusion energy development to advanced materials science and life support systems. Current assessments suggest that robotic interstellar probes using fusion propulsion could potentially launch within 30 to 50 years, assuming continued investment in fusion energy research and space technology development. Crewed interstellar missions would follow robotic pathfinders by perhaps 20 to 30 years, once automated missions have validated life support technologies and established supply infrastructure at intermediate waypoints. The development timeline depends heavily on sustained political and economic commitment to long-term space exploration goals that extend beyond normal political cycles. International cooperation becomes essential for interstellar mission development, as no single nation possesses the technological and economic resources necessary for such ambitious projects. The precedent established by international space station partnerships provides models for how multiple nations can collaborate on long-term space exploration goals, but interstellar missions would require cooperation on scales and timelines that exceed any previous international project. Private sector involvement in interstellar mission development is increasing as companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and fusion energy startups develop relevant technologies for their own commercial purposes. The convergence of private fusion energy development, advanced space propulsion research, and growing commercial space capabilities could accelerate interstellar mission timelines beyond current government-led projections. The economic drivers for interstellar exploration include both scientific discovery and potential resource acquisition from other star systems. While the immediate economic returns from interstellar missions may be minimal, the long-term benefits of establishing human presence beyond the solar system could justify the enormous initial investments required. Risk mitigation strategies for interstellar missions must address both technical failures and the possibility that missions might encounter unexpected challenges during decades-long journeys. Redundant systems, spare components, and repair capabilities provide protection against foreseeable failures, but crews must also be prepared for completely unexpected situations that mission planners cannot anticipate. The stepping stone approach to interstellar exploration offers ways to reduce mission risks by building up capabilities gradually rather than attempting to reach nearby stars in single giant leaps. Robotic missions to the outer solar system could validate propulsion and life support technologies, while also establishing supply depots and communication relays that support follow-up missions. Breakthrough propulsion technologies beyond fusion drives could revolutionize interstellar travel timelines if theoretical concepts like antimatter propulsion or exotic matter manipulation prove feasible. While such technologies remain highly speculative, continued research into fundamental physics could reveal new possibilities that dramatically reduce interstellar travel times. The possibility of discovering life in nearby star systems adds urgency to interstellar exploration planning, while also raising complex questions about how human missions should interact with alien ecosystems. The detection of potentially habitable exoplanets around Proxima Centauri and other nearby stars provides specific targets for interstellar missions, while highlighting the scientific importance of reaching these systems. Planetary protection protocols for interstellar missions must prevent both forward contamination of alien worlds and back contamination of spacecraft returning from other star systems. The biological isolation of interstellar crews provides natural protection against alien pathogens, but landing operations and sample return missions would require sophisticated sterilization and quarantine procedures. The legacy implications of interstellar exploration extend far beyond immediate scientific discovery to encompass humanity's long-term survival and expansion throughout the galaxy. Establishing self-sustaining human populations in other star systems provides insurance against existential risks on Earth, while opening unlimited possibilities for continued human expansion and development. Educational and inspirational benefits from interstellar exploration could transform human perspectives on our place in the universe, while encouraging increased investment in science and technology education. The pursuit of interstellar travel drives advances across multiple scientific disciplines that benefit terrestrial applications, from fusion energy and advanced materials to life support technologies and radiation medicine. The philosophical implications of interstellar travel challenge fundamental assumptions about human identity, cultural evolution, and our relationship with the cosmos. Crews departing for other star systems would become pioneers of human consciousness expansion, carrying Earth's culture into realms that no human has ever experienced, while potentially evolving into something beyond our current understanding of humanity. As we stand at this crossroads between planetary and interstellar civilization, the choices we make today about research priorities, international cooperation, and long-term commitment will determine whether humanity joins the cosmic community of spacefaring species or remains forever bound to a single star system. The technologies needed for interstellar travel are within our reach, but realizing them requires sustained effort across multiple generations. The starships that will carry our descendants to other worlds are taking shape in laboratories and research facilities around the globe. Every advance in fusion energy brings us closer to practical interstellar propulsion. Every improvement in life support technology makes long-duration space missions more feasible. Every breakthrough in materials science enables lighter, stronger spacecraft that can survive the harsh environment of interstellar space. The universe awaits our arrival, patient and vast, filled with wonders we can barely imagine and possibilities that extend beyond the limits of human comprehension. Whether we answer the cosmic invitation successfully depends on our willingness to invest in technologies and timelines that extend far beyond individual lifespans, guided by visions of human expansion that transform us from a planetary species into citizens of the galaxy itself. The journey to the stars begins not with the ignition of fusion engines or the deployment of light sails, but with the decisions we make today about humanity's cosmic destiny. Every choice to fund research, encourage international cooperation, and maintain long-term perspectives on space exploration writes another page in the story of our species' greatest adventure. The stars are calling, and for the first time in human history, we possess the knowledge and capabilities to answer that ancient summons. Yet the most audacious proposal for near-term interstellar exploration doesn't require massive fusion rockets or generation ships carrying thousands of people. Instead, it demands something that sounds almost impossible until you examine the physics involved. What if we could accelerate spacecraft to 20% of light speed using nothing more than concentrated beams of light? This isn't science fiction speculation. This is the core concept behind Breakthrough Starshot, a project that received $100 million in initial funding and represents humanity's most serious attempt at practical interstellar exploration within our lifetimes. The physics behind this approach exploits one of the most fundamental properties of electromagnetic radiation itself. Light carries momentum. When photons strike a surface and reflect, they transfer that momentum to whatever they hit. Under normal circumstances, this effect is incredibly subtle. The pressure from sunlight hitting Earth's surface amounts to less than 10 millionths of atmospheric pressure. But when you concentrate the output of millions of lasers onto an ultra-lightweight target, that accumulated momentum transfer becomes powerful enough to accelerate spacecraft to relativistic speeds. Picture the most ambitious engineering project ever conceived. A square kilometre of ground-based lasers, their combined output reaching 100 gigawatts of power. That's roughly equivalent to the electrical output of 100 nuclear power plants, all focused into coherent beams of light targeting objects smaller than computer chips travelling at incredible velocities. Each spacecraft in the Breakthrough Starshot fleet would weigh just a few grams, equipped with gossamer-thin sails measuring several meters across, but only hundreds of atoms thick. These ultra-lightweight explorers would catch the concentrated starlight and begin accelerating at forces exceeding 10,000 times Earth's gravity. Within 10 minutes of laser bombardment, they would reach 20% of light speed, fast enough to cross the distance to Proxima Centauri in just over 20 years. The engineering precision required staggers the imagination. The laser array would need approximately 100 million individual lasers, each one precisely coordinated to focus on targets smaller than postage stamps. The timing precision must exceed anything ever attempted in human engineering. A coordination error of even nanoseconds would scatter the laser energy uselessly across space instead of accelerating the spacecraft. The light sails themselves represent marvels of materials engineering that push the absolute boundaries of physical possibility. These ultra-thin membranes must reflect nearly 100% of incoming light while absorbing almost none of it, preventing them from vaporizing under the intense laser bombardment. They must maintain structural integrity under accelerations that would instantly destroy any conventional material. Recent breakthroughs in metamaterials and photonic crystals are making such light sails theoretically feasible. Researchers have developed designs incorporating billions of nanoscale features arranged in precise patterns to maximize reflectivity while minimizing mass. These photonic crystal structures can be fabricated using advanced lithography techniques, creating sails with area densities of less than 1 gram per square meter. The spacecraft themselves must pack cameras, computers, communication systems, and power sources into packages weighing just grams. Every component must survive not only the extreme acceleration phase, but also decades of travel through the harsh environment of interstellar space. Cosmic radiation, interstellar dust impacts, and the extreme cold of deep space all pose threats to these tiny explorers. Perhaps most remarkably, these gram-scale spacecraft must carry communication systems powerful enough to transmit data back to Earth across interstellar distances. The signal strength required approaches the theoretical limits of electromagnetic communication. By the time radio waves from Alpha Centauri reach Earth, they would be so weak that detecting them requires some of the most sensitive equipment ever constructed. The navigational precision demanded by breakthrough Starship missions exceeds anything previously attempted in human history. Launching from Earth toward a star system over 4 light-years away requires accuracy that surpasses our most sophisticated GPS systems by factors of millions. The spacecraft must be aimed so precisely that after traveling for over 20 years at relativistic speeds, they arrive close enough to potentially habitable planets to capture meaningful scientific data during brief flyby encounters lasting just hours. Even tiny course corrections become impossible once the spacecraft leave the solar system. There's no fuel for maneuvering, no possibility of real-time guidance from Earth. Every aspect of the mission trajectory must be calculated and executed perfectly during the initial acceleration phase. The margin for error approaches absolute zero across distances that dwarf human comprehension. The atmospheric challenges alone present formidable obstacles for ground-based laser arrays. Earth's atmosphere constantly shifts and creates turbulence, bending and scattering laser beams in unpredictable ways. Adaptive optics systems can compensate for some atmospheric effects, but maintaining the precision required for spacecraft acceleration across the entire 100-gigawatt array may require breakthrough advances in atmospheric compensation technology that don't yet exist. The power requirements themselves present logistical challenges that strain current electrical grid capabilities. Generating 100 gigawatts of laser power requires energy equivalent to a significant fraction of global electricity production. The laser array would operate for only minutes at a time, but the infrastructure required to store and rapidly discharge such enormous amounts of energy pushes the limits of current technology. Recent reports indicate that breakthrough Starship has encountered significant setbacks that highlight the immense technical barriers remaining. The project has been placed on indefinite hold, with only a fraction of the initial funding spent on actual hardware development. The challenges of coordinating millions of lasers, fabricating light sails at scale, and miniaturizing spacecraft components have proven more difficult than initially anticipated. Yet the scientific potential of successful light sail missions justifies these extraordinary technical investments. The first images of potentially habitable exoplanets, direct measurements of interstellar space, and proof that humanity can reach other star systems would revolutionize our understanding of the cosmos. Success would demonstrate that interstellar exploration represents not just theoretical possibility, but practical achievement with foreseeable technology. The lessons learned from breakthrough Starship development will inform all future interstellar missions, whether robotic or crewed. The precision navigation techniques, advanced materials, and high-power laser systems being developed for this project will find applications in countless other space endeavors. Even if the original timeline proves overly optimistic, the technologies being pioneered today will eventually enable humanity's first steps toward the stars. But light sail missions, however revolutionary, can only provide brief glimpses of other star systems during high-speed flyby encounters. They cannot establish permanent presence, conduct detailed surface exploration, or carry human crews to other worlds. For those ambitious goals, we need fundamentally different approaches that accept longer journey times in exchange for greater payload capacity and mission flexibility. This brings us to the realm of nuclear pulse propulsion, a concept so audacious that it sounds like science fiction until you examine the physics involved. What if we could propel spacecraft by detonating nuclear explosives behind them, riding the shockwaves of controlled atomic explosions across interstellar distances? Project Orion, conceived in the late 1950s by physicist Freeman Dyson and his colleagues, proposed exactly this approach. The concept involved a massive spacecraft equipped with a pusher plate designed to absorb the energy from nuclear explosions detonated at regular intervals behind the vehicle. Each nuclear pulse would accelerate the spacecraft forward, with hundreds or thousands of explosions providing continuous thrust over extended periods. The performance potential of nuclear pulse propulsion exceeds any other near-term propulsion concept. Orion-class vehicles could theoretically achieve exhaust velocities exceeding 10,000 kilometers per second, compared to the 4 kilometers per second typical of chemical rockets. This enormous performance advantage could enable spacecraft to reach significant fractions of light speed, while carrying payloads measured in thousands of tons rather than grams. The engineering challenges of nuclear pulse propulsion center on creating pusher plate systems capable of surviving repeated nuclear explosions while maintaining structural integrity. The pusher plate must absorb the energy from each detonation and transfer it to the spacecraft structure without catastrophic failure. Advanced materials and shock absorption systems would be required to handle forces that exceed anything in conventional engineering experience. Radiation shielding for nuclear pulse propulsion presents unique challenges beyond those faced by fusion-powered spacecraft. Each nuclear explosion would produce intense gamma radiation and neutron flux that could be lethal to crew members, despite the protective distance provided by the pusher plate system. Advanced shielding concepts would need to protect crews while minimizing weight penalties that compromise propulsion performance. Environmental concerns about nuclear pulse propulsion have historically limited development of Orion-style concepts. Detonating nuclear explosives in Earth's atmosphere or near-Earth space would violate multiple international treaties and pose unacceptable environmental risks. However, pulse propulsion systems assembled and operated in deep space could avoid these environmental constraints while providing unmatched performance for interstellar missions. Modern concepts for nuclear pulse propulsion have evolved beyond simple atomic bombs to include more sophisticated fusion-based explosive systems. Inertial confinement fusion pellets could provide cleaner nuclear pulses with better control over explosion timing and energy output. These advanced pulse systems could achieve the performance benefits of nuclear explosions while reducing radiation hazards and environmental concerns. The fuel requirements for nuclear pulse propulsion missions would strain global nuclear materials production capabilities. Each interstellar mission might require thousands of nuclear charges, demanding uranium or plutonium quantities that exceed current weapons stockpiles. However, the development of fusion-based pulse systems could potentially use deuterium fuel that's abundant in Earth's oceans. Launch strategies for nuclear pulse propulsion spacecraft must address the political and environmental challenges of operating nuclear systems near Earth. The most realistic approaches involve assembling pulse propulsion vehicles at distant locations in the outer solar system, far from Earth's environment and population centers. Robotic construction systems could build these spacecraft using materials mined from asteroids or outer planet moons. The crew survival systems for nuclear pulse propulsion spacecraft must protect human occupants from the extreme accelerations and radiation environments created by repeated nuclear explosions. Advanced acceleration couches and protective systems would be needed to allow crews to survive the powerful jolts from each nuclear pulse. Medical monitoring and treatment capabilities would become essential for managing the health effects of extended exposure to high acceleration forces. The psychological impact of traveling aboard a nuclear pulse propulsion spacecraft presents unique challenges for crew mental health and mission success. The constant sequence of nuclear explosions would create noise, vibration, and acceleration forces unlike anything in normal human experience. Crew training and psychological preparation programs would need to address these extraordinary environmental stresses. Navigation and control systems for nuclear pulse propulsion spacecraft must maintain accuracy despite the violent forces generated by each nuclear explosion. The spacecraft's guidance systems, communication equipment, and scientific instruments must be hardened against electromagnetic pulses and mechanical shocks that would destroy conventional electronics. Redundant systems and robust engineering become essential for mission success. The development timeline for practical nuclear pulse propulsion extends several decades into the future, assuming continued progress in nuclear engineering and space technology. Current political and environmental constraints make near-term development unlikely, but changing attitudes toward nuclear technology and growing interest in interstellar exploration could accelerate development timelines. International cooperation becomes essential for nuclear pulse propulsion development, as the technologies involved require expertise and resources that exceed any single nation's capabilities. The nuclear materials, space-based construction, capabilities, and safety systems needed for pulse propulsion missions would necessitate unprecedented international collaboration. Yet even nuclear pulse propulsion, for all its revolutionary potential, cannot solve every challenge of interstellar travel. The journey to even nearby stars requires decades of travel time, creating demands for long-duration survival systems that push biological and engineering capabilities to their absolute limits. Consider what it means to keep human beings alive and healthy for 30, 40, or 50 years in the confined environment of a spacecraft traveling through interstellar space. Every system must operate with near-perfect reliability for periods that exceed the design lifetime of any technology ever created. Failure is not just inconvenient but potentially fatal, with no possibility of rescue or repair from Earth. The atmospheric management systems for long-duration interstellar missions must maintain precise control over oxygen, carbon dioxide, humidity, and trace gas concentrations while preventing the accumulation of toxic compounds that could poison the crew. Current space station life support systems achieve recycling rates of roughly 90%, meaning that 10% of atmospheric gases must be resupplied regularly. For missions lasting decades, even 1% losses would require massive initial stores or recycling technologies that exceed current capabilities by enormous margins. Water recovery systems must process not only crew waste, but also humidity condensation, equipment cooling systems, and water used for food production. Advanced filtration and purification technologies can theoretically recover water from virtually any source, but the energy requirements and maintenance needs for these systems must be carefully balanced against available resources throughout the mission duration. The psychological requirements for crews on decades-long interstellar missions exceed anything in human experience. Unlike current space missions that last months, or at most a few years, interstellar crews would commit to journeys with no possibility of early return to Earth. The psychological profiles required for such missions differ fundamentally from those of current astronauts, who can maintain motivation knowing that Earth remains accessible. Traditional astronaut selection emphasizes technical competence, physical fitness, and ability to work under pressure for relatively short periods. Interstellar crews would need exceptional psychological resilience, social compatibility, and commitment to long-term goals that extend far beyond individual career aspirations. The crew would essentially become a small isolated society, requiring skills in leadership, conflict resolution, education, and cultural preservation that go far beyond technical space operations. The communication delays with Earth compound these psychological challenges in ways that no previous human expedition has faced. Even messages to nearby star systems require years for round-trip communication, making real-time conversation with Earth impossible. Crews must be prepared to make critical decisions without input from Earth-based experts, while maintaining psychological connections to human civilization, despite the communication barriers. Medical requirements for interstellar crews push healthcare technology into completely uncharted territory. The spacecraft must function as a complete hospital capable of treating any medical condition that might arise during decades of travel. Pharmaceutical supplies present particular challenges, as most medications have limited shelf lives that make long-term storage problematic. Advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing capabilities must be integrated into spacecraft systems, allowing crews to synthesize needed medications from basic chemical precursors. These pharmaceutical production systems require sophisticated chemistry equipment and extensive chemical feedstock supplies that add significantly to mission mass and complexity. Surgical capabilities for interstellar missions must include everything from routine procedures to complex operations needed for trauma care or emergency medical situations. Robotic surgical systems could provide precision and reliability beyond human capabilities while reducing the training burden on crew members who must serve multiple roles throughout the mission. The genetic and reproductive considerations for interstellar crews add layers of complexity that extend far beyond technical engineering challenges. If journey times approach or exceed individual human lifespans, crews must be capable of reproduction and child-rearing in spacecraft environments. This requires not just life support systems, but educational facilities, recreational spaces, and social structures that can maintain human culture across generations. Recent research in developmental biology suggests that reproduction and child development in zero-gravity or artificial gravity environments may face significant physiological challenges. Bone development, cardiovascular function, and neurological development all depend on gravitational cues that may be absent or altered in spacecraft environments. Ensuring healthy human reproduction during interstellar journeys may require medical advances and environmental design innovations that we're only beginning to understand. The cultural preservation challenges for isolated interstellar crews extend beyond individual psychology into questions of human identity and social evolution. Crews departing for distant star systems would develop in complete cultural isolation from Earth, potentially evolving languages, customs, and social structures that become unrecognizable to Earth-based observers. Food production systems for interstellar missions must provide not only adequate nutrition, but also psychological benefits that become crucial for crew morale during extended confinement. Stored food loses nutritional value over time, while the psychological importance of fresh food and varied diets increases during long-duration isolation. Hydroponic and aeroponic growing systems could provide fresh vegetables and psychological relief, but they require significant space, energy, and maintenance resources throughout the mission. The genetic diversity of food crops becomes critical for interstellar missions, as crop diseases or genetic bottlenecks could threaten food security with no possibility of resupply from Earth. Seed banks and genetic preservation technologies must maintain viable crop genetics for decades while protecting against radiation damage and storage degradation that could compromise agricultural systems. Waste management for interstellar missions cannot rely on simply discarding unwanted materials into space. Every atom aboard the spacecraft represents finite resources that may be needed for repairs, recycling, or emergency situations that arise during the journey. Advanced recycling systems must break down waste materials into useful raw materials for manufacturing and life support applications. Three-dimensional printing and molecular recycling technologies could enable crews to manufacture replacement parts and tools from waste materials, reducing the need to carry extensive spare parts inventories. These manufacturing capabilities become essential for maintaining complex spacecraft systems over mission durations that exceed the design lifespans of individual components. The radiation protection requirements for interstellar spacecraft exceed anything faced by crews in Earth orbit or lunar missions. Galactic cosmic rays consist of high-energy particles accelerated by supernovae to speeds approaching light velocity. These particles possess enough energy to penetrate conventional shielding materials and create secondary radiation showers when they interact with spacecraft structures. Traditional passive shielding using dense materials like lead becomes prohibitively heavy for interstellar applications. Every kilogram of shielding mass requires additional fuel to accelerate it, creating exponential mass penalties that quickly make missions impossible. Advanced shielding concepts must provide protection while minimizing weight penalties that compromise mission feasibility. Magnetic field generators offer promising approaches to active radiation protection. By creating powerful magnetic fields around spacecraft, these systems could deflect charged cosmic ray particles before they reach crew compartments. The magnetic field strength required for effective shielding exceeds Earth's magnetic field by factors of hundreds, demanding superconducting coils and enormous power supplies that present their own engineering challenges. Plasma-based shielding systems represent another active protection strategy that could surround spacecraft with protective plasma clouds. These plasma shields would absorb and deflect incoming radiation, potentially providing superior protection compared to passive shielding approaches. However, the power requirements for maintaining plasma shields over interstellar distances remain formidable technical challenges. The maintenance and repair challenges for interstellar spacecraft exceed anything in current space mission experience. Unlike orbital missions where ground support and resupply remain possible, interstellar crews must be completely self-sufficient for equipment maintenance and repair throughout the entire journey. Every component failure could cascade into life-threatening emergencies with no possibility of external assistance. Redundant systems and extensive spare parts inventories provide some protection against foreseeable failures, but crews must also be prepared for completely unexpected situations that mission planners cannot anticipate. Advanced diagnostic systems and repair capabilities become essential for identifying and correcting problems before they threaten mission success or crew safety. The realistic timelines for achieving practical interstellar travel capabilities depend on sustained progress across multiple technological frontiers simultaneously. Current assessments suggest that robotic interstellar probes using advanced propulsion systems could potentially launch within 30 to 50 years, assuming continued investment in fusion energy research and space technology development. Crewed interstellar missions would follow robotic pathfinders by perhaps 20 to 30 years, once automated missions have validated life support technologies and established communication infrastructure between star systems. However, these timelines assume sustained political and economic commitment to long-term space exploration goals that extend beyond normal political cycles and economic planning horizons. The economic requirements for interstellar mission development dwarf any previous human endeavor. Conservative estimates place the development costs for practical interstellar capabilities at hundreds of billions of dollars, spread over several decades of sustained research and development efforts. These investments exceed the resources available to any single nation and require unprecedented international cooperation. Yet the potential returns from successful interstellar exploration justify these extraordinary investments when considered across appropriate timescales. Establishing human presence in other star systems would ensure species survival against existential threats while opening unlimited opportunities for expansion and resource acquisition. The technologies developed for interstellar missions would transform life on Earth through advances in energy systems, materials science, and life support technologies. The international cooperation required for interstellar mission success could establish frameworks for addressing other global challenges that require coordinated action across national boundaries. The precedent of sustained collaboration on interstellar exploration might facilitate cooperation on climate change, resource management, and other planetary-scale challenges facing human civilization. Private sector involvement in interstellar mission development continues increasing as companies develop relevant technologies for terrestrial applications. The convergence of private fusion energy development, advanced space propulsion research, and growing commercial space capabilities could accelerate interstellar mission timelines beyond current government-led projections. The risk mitigation strategies for interstellar missions must address both technical failures and the possibility that expeditions might encounter completely unexpected challenges during decades-long journeys. Redundant systems, extensive spare parts, and comprehensive repair capabilities provide protection against foreseeable problems. But crews must also prepare for scenarios that exceed mission planners' imagination. The stepping stone approach to interstellar exploration offers methods for reducing mission risks by building capabilities gradually rather than attempting to reach nearby stars in single enormous leaps. Robotic missions to the outer solar system could validate propulsion and life support technologies while establishing supply depots and communication relays that support subsequent expeditions. Advanced manufacturing capabilities deployed to intermediate waypoints could produce fuel and spacecraft components from local resources, dramatically reducing the mass that must be transported from Earth. Automated mining and refining systems could extract fusion fuel from gas giant atmospheres or harvest rare materials from asteroid belts, creating the infrastructure needed for sustained interstellar expansion. This infrastructure development approach mirrors how human civilization has historically expanded into new territories. Early explorers establish footholds and supply routes, followed by permanent settlements that become launching points for further expansion. The same pattern could guide humanity's expansion to the stars, with each successful mission enabling more ambitious follow-up expeditions. The discovery of potentially habitable exoplanets around nearby stars adds specific targets and urgency to interstellar exploration planning. The confirmed existence of rocky planets in the habitable zones of Proxima Centauri, TRAPPIST-1, and other nearby star systems provides concrete destinations for interstellar missions while highlighting the scientific importance of reaching these worlds. Planetary protection protocols for interstellar missions must prevent both forward contamination of alien worlds and back contamination of spacecraft returning from other star systems. The biological isolation of interstellar crews provides natural protection against alien pathogens, but landing operations and sample collection activities would require sophisticated sterilization and quarantine procedures. The possibility of discovering life in nearby star systems raises complex questions about how human missions should interact with alien ecosystems. First contact protocols and biological preservation strategies become essential considerations for mission planning, even though the probability of encountering complex life remains highly speculative. The legacy implications of interstellar exploration extend far beyond immediate scientific discovery to encompass humanity's long-term survival and expansion throughout the galaxy. Establishing self-sustaining human populations in other star systems provides insurance against existential risks on Earth, while demonstrating that consciousness and intelligence can persist across cosmic timescales. The philosophical implications of interstellar travel challenge fundamental assumptions about human identity, cultural evolution, and our relationship with the cosmos. Crews departing for other star systems become pioneers of consciousness expansion, carrying Earth's culture into realms no human has experienced, while potentially evolving into forms that transcend our current understanding of humanity. Educational and inspirational benefits from interstellar exploration could transform human perspectives on our place in the universe, while encouraging increased investment in science and technology education. The pursuit of interstellar travel drives advances across multiple scientific disciplines that benefit terrestrial applications, creating positive feedback loops between space exploration and human welfare. As we stand at this crossroads between planetary and interstellar civilization, the choices we make today about research priorities, international cooperation, and long-term commitment will determine whether humanity joins the community of spacefaring species or remains forever bound to a single star system. The technologies needed for interstellar travel exist within our reach, but realizing them requires sustained effort across multiple generations. The starships that will carry our descendants to other worlds are taking shape in laboratories and research facilities around the globe today. Every advance in fusion energy brings us closer to practical interstellar propulsion. Every improvement in life support technology makes long-duration space missions more feasible. Every breakthrough in materials science enables lighter, stronger spacecraft that can survive the harsh environment of interstellar space. The universe awaits our arrival, patient and vast, filled with wonders we can barely imagine, and possibilities that extend beyond the limits of human comprehension. Whether we answer this cosmic invitation successfully depends on our willingness to invest in technologies and timelines that extend far beyond individual lifespans, guided by visions of human expansion that transform us from a planetary species into citizens of the galaxy itself. Of the galaxy itself, the universe has presented us with a test that goes beyond engineering and into the realm of human nature itself. As we develop these incredible technologies, we must also evolve our thinking about what it means to be human across cosmic distances and timescales that dwarf our entire recorded history. Consider the profound isolation that awaits interstellar crews. The psychological studies from Antarctic research stations, submarine deployments, and long-duration space missions provide glimpses into how humans respond to extreme isolation, but nothing in our experience approaches the complete separation that interstellar travel demands. When the last radio signal from Earth fades into cosmic background noise, crews will face a form of existential isolation unlike anything our species has ever encountered. The communication lag alone creates unprecedented psychological challenges. Imagine sending a message to your family on Earth and knowing that any response will arrive years later, if at all. By the time you receive news of births, deaths, or major events, they will already be ancient history. The crew becomes not just physically separated from humanity, but temporally displaced, living in a different time frame where Earth's concerns seem increasingly distant and irrelevant. This temporal displacement affects every aspect of mission planning and crew psychology. Traditional mission control, with its real-time guidance and support, becomes impossible. Crews must be trained to think like independent explorers rather than astronauts following ground-based instructions. They become the sole representatives of human consciousness in their region of space, responsible for making decisions that could affect the future of interstellar exploration. The social dynamics within isolated crews present challenges that extend far beyond individual psychology. Research from closed ecological systems like Biosphere 2 reveals how quickly small groups can fragment into competing factions when stressed by confinement and resource limitations. Interstellar crews would face these same pressures, amplified by decades of isolation and the knowledge that conflict resolution cannot rely on external intervention. Leadership structures for interstellar missions must balance democratic decision-making with the need for clear authority during emergencies. Traditional military hierarchies may prove inadequate for missions lasting decades, where crew members must adapt to changing roles and responsibilities as the mission evolves. The captain who launches from Earth may not be the best leader 20 years into the journey, yet succession planning becomes critical when replacement personnel cannot be recruited from external sources. The genetic considerations for long-duration missions introduce bioethical questions that humanity has never faced. If mission duration approaches or exceeds human lifespans, crews must be capable of reproduction and child-rearing in spacecraft environments. This means selecting crew members not just for technical competence and psychological resilience, but for genetic diversity and reproductive compatibility. Children born aboard interstellar spacecraft would face unique developmental challenges that go beyond the physiological effects of artificial gravity or radiation exposure. Their entire universe would consist of the spacecraft interior, with Earth existing only as stories and digital records. These second-generation crew members would develop cultural identities and worldviews fundamentally different from their Earth-born parents. The educational systems for spacecraft-born children must provide comprehensive knowledge about Earth's history, science, and culture, while preparing them for life in environments their teachers have never experienced. How do you teach someone about oceans when they've never seen more water than fits in a recycling tank? How do you explain wind, weather, or the sensation of unlimited sky to someone whose entire experience involves enclosed spaces? The psychological impact of raising children who will never see Earth poses profound questions about parental responsibility and cultural preservation. Parents must somehow convey the importance of maintaining human culture and values while acknowledging that their children's lives will be fundamentally different from any human experience in history. Language evolution during interstellar missions represents another fascinating challenge for cultural preservation. Isolated populations naturally develop linguistic changes over time, and spacecraft crews would likely evolve specialized vocabularies and communication patterns adapted to their unique environment. Technical terms for spacecraft operations would become part of daily language, while words for Earth-based concepts might gradually lose relevance. The possibility of linguistic drift becomes more complex when considering that different interstellar missions might develop divergent language patterns. Crews heading to different star systems could evolve distinct dialects or even separate languages over the course of centuries-long journeys. By the time human civilization expands across multiple star systems, interstellar travelers might require translation systems to communicate with each other. Cultural preservation technologies become essential for maintaining connections to Earth's civilization throughout extended missions. Digital archives must store not just scientific and technical information, but art, music, literature, and historical records that define human culture. These cultural databases must be designed for accessibility across generations, with interfaces that remain intuitive even as technology evolves during the mission. Entertainment and recreational systems for interstellar crews must provide psychological relief from the stress of long-duration confinement while avoiding the trap of escapism that could undermine mission focus. Virtual reality systems could provide simulated experiences of Earth environments, but overuse might make crew members less willing to engage with spacecraft reality. Balancing psychological needs with mission requirements becomes a delicate challenge for mission planners. The religious and spiritual needs of interstellar crews present unique challenges for mission planning. Traditional religious practices often involve community worship, pilgrimage to sacred sites, or connection with natural environments that spacecraft cannot provide. Mission planners must consider how to accommodate diverse spiritual needs while maintaining crew cohesion and avoiding religious conflicts in confined spaces. Some crew members might find spiritual meaning in the mission itself, viewing interstellar exploration as a form of pilgrimage or divine calling. Others might struggle with feelings of separation from sacred places or religious communities on Earth. Chaplaincy services and spiritual counseling become important considerations for maintaining crew psychological health throughout extended missions. The death and burial protocols for interstellar missions require careful consideration of cultural, practical, and psychological factors. Traditional burial practices become impossible in spacecraft environments, while cultural sensitivities around death and mourning vary widely among different populations. Crews must develop new rituals and practices for honouring deceased members while managing the psychological impact of loss in isolated environments. Body disposal in interstellar space presents technical challenges beyond cultural considerations. Simply jettisoning remains into space wastes valuable biological materials that could be recycled into life support systems. However, incorporating deceased crew members into life support recycling raises ethical and psychological issues that require careful handling to maintain crew morale and respect for the deceased. The possibility of mission failure or catastrophic system breakdown creates psychological burdens that crews must be prepared to handle. Unlike Earth-based emergencies where rescue remains possible, interstellar crews face the knowledge that some failures could result in certain death with no possibility of external assistance. This existential awareness affects decision-making, risk assessment, and psychological resilience throughout the mission. Emergency protocols for interstellar missions must address scenarios ranging from technical failures to medical emergencies to social conflicts that could threaten crew survival. Unlike current space missions where emergency evacuation to Earth remains an option, interstellar crews must be prepared to handle any conceivable emergency using only the resources available aboard the spacecraft. The psychological preparation for potentially fatal emergencies requires training programs that help crew members accept mortality while maintaining hope and mission focus. Crews must be mentally prepared to continue the mission even if significant numbers of their colleagues die from accidents, medical conditions, or system failures that cannot be prevented or corrected. Conflict resolution protocols become critical for managing disputes that could escalate into violence in confined spacecraft environments. Traditional law enforcement and judicial systems cannot function in isolated spacecraft, requiring crews to develop internal mechanisms for handling everything from minor disagreements to serious crimes. The possibility of mutiny, sabotage, or psychological breakdown must be addressed through careful crew selection, ongoing psychological monitoring, and intervention protocols. The preservation of scientific and cultural knowledge throughout interstellar missions requires redundant storage systems that can survive decades of operation in harsh space environments. Data degradation, cosmic radiation damage, and equipment failures could gradually erode the knowledge base that crews need for mission success and cultural continuity. Advanced data storage technologies and error correction systems become essential for maintaining information integrity across mission timelines. Knowledge transfer between generations becomes critical for missions that span multiple human lifespans. Experienced crew members must train their replacements before age or death removes their expertise from the mission. This continuous education process requires comprehensive documentation systems and training programs that can operate effectively in spacecraft environments with limited personnel resources. The return journey considerations for interstellar missions add layers of complexity to mission planning that extend far beyond technical challenges. Crews that successfully reach their destination must decide whether to attempt the return voyage to Earth or establish permanent settlements in the target system. This decision affects everything from fuel requirements to psychological preparation to the long-term goals of human interstellar expansion. Round-trip missions require carrying sufficient fuel and life support resources for the entire journey, potentially doubling or tripling the mass requirements for spacecraft. Alternatively, crews might plan to refuel at their destination using local resources, but this approach depends on finding suitable materials and developing extraction technologies that work in alien environments. One-way missions eliminate the fuel requirements for return journeys, but create profound psychological and ethical challenges. crew members must be willing to permanently leave Earth and human civilization, knowing they will never again see their home planet or communicate with friends and families left behind. This commitment level exceeds anything previously required of human explorers. The possibility of technological advancement on Earth during extended interstellar missions creates interesting strategic considerations. A crew departing for a nearby star system might find that faster spacecraft launched decades later arrive at the destination first, making their mission redundant. This overtaking scenario requires careful consideration of mission timing and technological development rates. Communication protocols for multiple interstellar missions must address the possibility that several expeditions might be traveling to the same or nearby star systems simultaneously. Coordination between missions becomes challenging when communication delays prevent real-time discussion, and missions might arrive at their destinations years or decades apart, despite launching from Earth around the same time. The resource utilization strategies for interstellar missions must maximize the scientific and practical value obtained from enormous investments in spacecraft, crews, and mission support. Single destination flyby missions provide limited return on investment compared to missions that can explore multiple targets or establish permanent research stations. Mission architects must balance scientific objectives with practical constraints to optimize the knowledge gained from each expedition. In situ resource utilization becomes critical for missions that plan to establish permanent presence in target star systems. Crews must be prepared to extract water, atmospheric gases, and construction materials from local sources using technologies that can operate reliably without Earth-based support. The ability to become self-sufficient using local resources determines whether interstellar missions can transition from exploration to colonization. Manufacturing capabilities aboard interstellar spacecraft enable crews to produce tools, spare parts, and equipment from raw materials rather than carrying everything needed for the entire mission. Advanced three-dimensional printing, molecular assembly, and automated manufacturing systems could allow small crews to maintain and expand their technological capabilities using resources available in target star systems. The terraforming potential of target star systems affects long-term mission planning and settlement strategies. Worlds with suitable atmospheric composition, temperature ranges, and surface conditions might be modified to support larger human populations using techniques ranging from atmospheric engineering to ecosystem introduction. However, terraforming requires technological capabilities and resource commitments that exceed current human experience by enormous margins. Planetary protection considerations for interstellar missions must address both the preservation of potential alien life and the protection of human crews from unknown biological hazards. Sterilization protocols, quarantine procedures, and contamination prevention systems become essential for missions that plan to land on potentially habitable worlds or return samples to Earth. The discovery of alien life, even in microbial forms, would fundamentally alter the scientific objectives and procedures for interstellar missions. First contact protocols must be established before missions launch, addressing everything from sample collection procedures to communication attempts to the protection of alien ecosystems from human interference. The possibility of encountering intelligent alien life raises complex questions about diplomatic protocols, cultural exchange, and the representation of human civilization by small interstellar crews. While the probability of such encounters remains highly speculative, the consequences would be so profound that mission planners must consider how crews should respond to evidence of alien intelligence. Technology transfer considerations affect how interstellar missions share their discoveries and innovations with Earth-based civilization. The communication delays inherent in interstellar distances mean that technological breakthroughs achieved during missions might not benefit Earth for years or decades after their development. Conversely, technological advances on Earth might not reach interstellar crews until long after they could have been useful. The economic models for interstellar exploration must address funding mechanisms that can sustain development programs across multiple decades while providing returns on investment that justify the enormous costs involved. Traditional space mission economics break down when applied to projects requiring investments of hundreds of billions of dollars over timescales exceeding political and economic planning horizons. Public support for interstellar missions requires maintaining enthusiasm and commitment across generations of taxpayers who may never see direct benefits from their investments. The educational and inspirational value of interstellar exploration must be balanced against immediate social needs and competing priorities for public resources. Success requires creating cultural narratives that make interstellar exploration a shared human endeavour rather than an elite scientific project. International cooperation frameworks for interstellar missions must address legal, political, and economic challenges that exceed anything attempted in previous space exploration projects. Treaties governing interstellar activities, resource rights, and territorial claims need to be established before missions launch. Yet the legal frameworks for interstellar space remain largely undefined. The technological spin-offs from interstellar mission development could revolutionize multiple industries and scientific fields on Earth. Advances in fusion energy, life support systems, materials science, and artificial intelligence developed for interstellar applications would find extensive terrestrial uses. The economic benefits of these technological developments might ultimately justify interstellar mission investments, even if the missions themselves provide limited immediate returns. Risk assessment for interstellar missions must consider both technical failures and external threats that could destroy expeditions during their decades-long journeys. Cosmic hazards like gamma-ray bursts, supernova, or encounters with interstellar debris could eliminate missions despite perfect engineering and flawless execution. The probability of such events remains low, but the consequences would be catastrophic for any mission unlucky enough to encounter them. Insurance and liability frameworks for interstellar missions present unprecedented challenges for legal and financial institutions. Traditional insurance models cannot assess risks for missions operating under conditions that have never been tested, traveling through environments that are poorly understood, using technologies that exist at the limits of human capability. New approaches to risk management and financial protection become necessary for enabling private sector participation in interstellar exploration. The legacy planning for interstellar missions extends far beyond mission completion to consider how the knowledge, experience, and cultural impact of interstellar exploration will influence human civilization across centuries. Successful missions would establish precedents and capabilities that enable follow-up expeditions, creating positive feedback loops that accelerate human expansion into the galaxy. Educational curricula for interstellar missions must prepare crew members not just for technical challenges, but for the responsibility of representing human civilization in environments where they may be the only conscious witnesses to cosmic phenomena. Crews become the eyes and minds through which humanity first experiences other star systems, carrying the weight of species-level significance in their observations and decisions. The philosophical implications of successful interstellar travel extend beyond scientific discovery to questions about human destiny and our relationship with the cosmos. Establishing permanent human presence in other star systems would prove that consciousness and intelligence can persist across cosmic distances and timescales, suggesting that mind might play a fundamental role in the universe's evolution. As we stand at the threshold of the interstellar age, the choices we make today about research priorities, international cooperation, and long-term commitment will echo across centuries of human history. The starships that will carry our descendants to other worlds are being conceived and designed in laboratories around the globe right now. Every advance in fusion energy, every breakthrough in life support technology, every innovation in radiation shielding brings us closer to humanity's greatest adventure. The universe stretches before us, vast and patient, filled with wonders we can barely imagine, and challenges that will test every aspect of human ingenuity and determination. Whether we rise to meet this cosmic invitation depends on our willingness to think beyond individual lifespans and national boundaries, guided by visions of human expansion that transform us from a planetary species into citizens of the galaxy itself. The journey to the stars begins not with the ignition of fusion engines or the deployment of light sails, but with the decisions we make today about humanity's cosmic destiny. Every choice to fund research, encourage international cooperation, and maintain long-term perspectives on space exploration writes another page in the story of our species' greatest adventure. The stars are calling, and for the first time in human history, we possess the knowledge and capabilities to answer that ancient summons. The question that remains is not whether humanity will reach the stars, but when, and whether we'll have the wisdom to explore them responsibly. The universe awaits our answer, written in the choices we make in the critical decades ahead. The technical specifications that emerge from serious interstellar mission planning reveal just how far we must stretch the boundaries of human engineering capability. When we examine the most conservative estimates for crewed interstellar missions, the numbers become both inspiring and sobering in their implications for our technological future. A fusion-powered spacecraft capable of carrying a crew of 50 people to Proxima Centauri would require initial mass approaching 100,000 tons. The vast majority of that mass consists of a fusion fuel, radiation shielding, and life support consumables needed for a journey lasting 30 to 40 years. The spacecraft itself becomes a small artificial world, complete with agricultural systems, manufacturing facilities, and medical centers that must operate flawlessly throughout the mission duration. The fusion reactor at the heart of such a spacecraft would generate power levels exceeding most terrestrial power plants while operating continuously for decades without maintenance shutdowns. Current fusion reactor designs assume regular maintenance intervals measured in months or years, but interstellar reactors must function reliably for periods that exceed the operational lifetime of any human-built machine. Advanced reactor designs incorporate self-healing materials that can repair radiation damage automatically, extending operational lifespans beyond what conventional engineering approaches could achieve. These materials use embedded nanosystems that detect structural damage and initiate repair processes using raw materials stored within the material matrix itself. The magnetic confinement systems for interstellar fusion reactors must maintain plasma temperatures exceeding 100 million degrees while preventing any contact between the superheated plasma and physical reactor walls. Superconducting magnetic coils operating at temperatures near absolute zero create the invisible bottles that contain fusion reactions. Yet these coils must maintain their superconducting properties for decades despite constant bombardment by neutron radiation. Recent advances in high-temperature superconductors promise magnetic systems that could operate at higher temperatures while maintaining the field strengths necessary for plasma confinement. These new materials could simplify reactor cooling systems while improving reliability and reducing the power requirements for magnetic field generation. The neutron radiation produced by fusion reactions poses unique challenges for spacecraft design that extend beyond crew protection to include the gradual degradation of all spacecraft materials. Neutron bombardment causes atomic-level changes in metal structures, making materials brittle and potentially leading to catastrophic failures after years of operation. Advanced materials, science is developing neutron-resistant alloys specifically designed for fusion reactor environments. These materials incorporate specific atomic structures that can absorb neutron impacts without suffering permanent damage, potentially extending reactor operational lifetimes to the decades required for interstellar missions. The heat rejection systems for interstellar spacecraft must dissipate enormous amounts of waste heat generated by fusion reactors and life support systems. Unlike terrestrial power plants that can use water cooling or atmospheric heat exchange, spacecraft must reject heat through thermal radiation to the vacuum of space. Radiator systems for interstellar missions require surface areas measured in thousands of square meters, creating vast arrays of heat rejection panels that become vulnerable to meteoroid impacts and cosmic radiation damage. Advanced radiator designs use liquid metal coolants and self-sealing systems that can maintain thermal control even after suffering multiple impacts. The structural engineering challenges for interstellar spacecraft exceed anything in current aerospace experience. The vehicle must withstand acceleration forces during the propulsion phase, maintain structural integrity during decades of operation, and provide radiation shielding while minimizing mass penalties that compromise mission feasibility. Carbon nanotube composites and advanced metallic alloys offer strength-to-weight ratios that enable large spacecraft structures while keeping mass within reasonable limits. These materials must maintain their properties despite exposure to cosmic radiation, extreme temperature variations, and the mechanical stresses of long-duration operation. The attitude control and navigation systems for interstellar spacecraft must maintain precise orientation and trajectory over journey times that exceed the operational lifetime of any current guidance system. Traditional gyroscopes and star trackers would drift or fail during missions lasting decades, requiring backup systems and periodic calibration procedures. Pulsar navigation systems offer one promising approach for long-duration space missions. These systems use the precise timing signals from rotating neutron stars to determine spacecraft position and velocity with extraordinary accuracy. Unlike traditional navigation methods that depend on communication with Earth, pulsar navigation remains functional throughout interstellar journeys. The power systems for interstellar spacecraft must provide electrical energy for life support, propulsion control, communications, and scientific instruments throughout mission duration. While fusion reactors provide primary power, backup systems must be available to maintain critical functions if reactor problems occur. Radioisotope thermoelectric generators using long-lived isotopes could provide emergency power for essential systems during reactor maintenance or failure scenarios. These backup power systems must operate reliably for decades, while providing sufficient energy to maintain minimal life support and communication capabilities. The communication systems for interstellar missions must transmit data across distances that make the signals incredibly weak by the time they reach Earth. A message sent from Proxima Centauri would arrive at Earth with signal strength billions of times weaker than current satellite communications, requiring enormous receiving antennas and sensitive detection equipment. Laser communication systems offer advantages over radio transmissions for interstellar distances. Laser beams can be focused into much tighter beams than radio waves, concentrating more energy toward Earth and reducing the power requirements for long-distance communication. However, laser communication requires extremely precise pointing accuracy to maintain signal alignment across interstellar distances. The data storage requirements for interstellar missions encompass everything from scientific observations to personal records and cultural archives. Digital storage systems must maintain data integrity for decades despite cosmic radiation exposure that could corrupt electronic memory systems. Advanced error correction algorithms and redundant storage systems provide protection against data corruption, while quantum storage technologies promise data densities and stability levels that exceed current electronic storage capabilities. These systems must operate autonomously for decades, detecting and correcting data errors without human intervention. The psychological support systems for interstellar crews must address mental health challenges that exceed anything in current space mission experience. Extended isolation, confinement, and separation from Earth create stress factors that could compromise crew performance and mission success. Virtual reality systems could provide psychological relief by simulating Earth environments and enabling crew members to experience activities impossible within spacecraft confines. However, these systems must be designed carefully to avoid creating addictive escapism that interferes with mission responsibilities. The path to the stars stretches before us, illuminated by the brilliant fusion flames of possibility and shadowed by challenges that will test every aspect of human ingenuity. We stand at a crossroads where science fiction transforms into engineering blueprints, where the dreams that once filled our imaginations now demand the precision of mathematics and the rigor of experimental validation. From Project Daedalus to Breakthrough Starshot, from fusion drives that harness stellar fire to radiation shields that protect against cosmic storms, we've traced the outline of humanity's greatest adventure. The technologies exist within our reach, waiting for the sustained commitment and international cooperation needed to transform potential into reality. Whether we answer the ancient call of the stars depends not on distant breakthroughs, but on the choices we make today about research, collaboration, and our willingness to invest in timelines that extend far beyond individual lifespans. The universe watches in patient silence as we take our first tentative steps toward becoming a truly cosmic civilization.